Hello all YouTubers, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning back into today's Tropical Storm Josephine coverage for August 13th, 2020. Before I get on with today's video, however, it would be really awesome if you guys did hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for 900 subscribers. We're almost there. We're less than 100 away from the big ultimate goal of 1,000 subscribers. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as well as ring the bell notification so you don't miss my next upload. Also, watching the whole video because getting to the goal of 1,000 subscribers in monetization, we're getting very close. And you guys watching the whole video will help the Weather Dude's channel out a lot. So please consider watching the whole video as well. Please do. And also like and share this video with your friends. Thank you. Now let's go on with today's video. So here is Tropical Storm Josephine on the National Hurricane Center here, and as you can see, it currently has sustained winds of 45 miles an hour, and it's expected to strengthen into a mid-grade, at best high end, but mid-grade tropical storm as it passes north of the Caribbean islands. Now this can still be a threat, but I think a bigger threat may come to Bermuda early to the middle of part of next week. But the good news is, it looks like it's going to be tracking north of the Leeward Islands here. Definitely missing the windward, that's for sure. Puerto Rico, even Dominican Republic, can still see some dangerous wave heights here, some rough surf. This is moving west-northwest at 16 miles an hour, so it's technically still moving in a westerly direction. At some point, maybe soon, maybe in the next 8 o'clock update, maybe a couple hours after that, it will start to make more of a northwesterly turn, maybe more of a northerly turn towards the north and west, and then be on out of here. But the extreme northern Leeward Islands, okay, do actually have upwards of a 10% chance to see tropical storm force winds. And if they were to come, it would most likely be very late Friday and through about Saturday morning or so, would be the earliest reasonable arrival time. As you can see, the northernmost islands are in that darker green color. All right, most of the islands, 97% of the islands are not, though. But the most likely arrival time will be during the day Saturday and through Saturday afternoon. But the earliest reasonable arrival time, if it were to come for Leeward Islands, would be Saturday morning, and then we'll see if it can hold its strength. If not, maybe it'll strike Bermuda as a depression, maybe a post-tropical cyclone. We'll see. That's what we'll be taking a look at as well today. So in terms of the exact strength, it looks like we'll be strengthening to about 50 miles an hour or so by 2 o'clock tomorrow morning, then getting upwards of about 60 miles an hour at its peak, with wind gusts going to 70 miles an hour, and its peak strength will be reached here by 2 p.m. tomorrow through 2 a.m. on the 15th of August. So that's when we'll see your peak strength. Winds, sustained winds of 60 miles an hour, winds gusting near hurricane force, but not quite. Then it does eventually weaken to a tropical depression, 35 and then 30 mile an hour winds. We'll see how much of it's left when it gets to Bermuda, or when it makes its closest pass through Bermuda here. Let's turn on those wind speed probabilities so you can see. Again, if I zoom in on the northernmost parts of the Leeward Islands, you might not be able to see because of the color, but some of them are in here. But not many. Like I said, most of the islands, a great majority, is not shaded in any color whatsoever. But if the track shifts a little further south, if it takes longer to turn north, that would obviously mean we could see tropical storm force winds for those islands there. So, as of looking at the storm here, as you can see, this is a tropical storm force wind field. Anywhere in this, like this bluish color, this is how far tropical storm force winds go out from the center. It's not the biggest storm in the world. I will tell you that right now. This is not the largest storm. Alright, so this is a pretty small scale storm, but remember, they can weaken quickly and they can strengthen quickly. Alright, so before we look at the satellite, which obviously you can see a still image here, but I'll look at a better satellite image for you guys. Let you take a look at it. Maximum winds 40 knots, so 45 miles an hour. Pressure has been dropping a little bit, 1,005 millibars. But again, the radius of maximum wind only goes about 80 to 90 miles from the center, away from center and circular, so it's not much. Alright, and when we look at this on satellite imagery, there will be a little clocking symbol at the end, but most of it's fine. Actually, it might have gone away now. So there is a flare-up of convection, and if we look, I'm going to fast forward. I know I shouldn't show you guys this yet, but this is the current low position. It looks like about 50 degrees north, 50 degrees west longitude, and 14 degrees north latitude. So assuming that, okay, the storm is sitting, yeah, that's actually about right. The circulation's actually right near. You can actually see it. It's it's not organized very well, but there has been a very recent flare-up of convection. All right, not only have we seen some deeper colors like gray and pink, but the area of red has expanded dramatically here. So we've seen it blow up a convection. Maybe that's a sign of strengthening. I'm also starting to see some evidence of maybe some outflow boundaries are pretty weak, but we're starting to see some weak outflow, which is good sign, obviously, that we're starting to see some energy exerted from this thing because it's trying to take in all the energy. I guess now it's starting to transport the energy outward a little bit, and obviously that means that is evidence that this is strengthening a little bit. So again, I just refresh this. This is the current low position here. Like I said, 50 degrees west longitude and 14 degrees north latitude. Now, looking at the model tracks here, as you can see, a lot of the models take it well north of the islands. I think our number one place to pay attention to for sure will be Bermuda, but some of the islands could still get hit. And like I said, may not be rain, may not be the strongest of winds, but definitely some rough surf, some higher waves, especially from the extreme northern Leeward Islands here. St. John's points northward. I think you guys could certainly see some rough waves and some high surf, even probably all the way down the Windward Islands from Puerto Rico through Dominican Republic and Haiti. I think you guys could even see some rough waves, depending on how long does it take to make that northwest turn. Could it be making the northwest turn now? Which, judging by the satellite imagery, I think it's actually starting to make a northwest turn. As you can see, I believe this is the center right here. It's kind of starting to move in a direction like this. So I think it's already made that northward turn, but we'll see in the next update by the National Hurricane Center at 8 o'clock. Look at the GEFS model tracks. As you can see, probably staying at its strongest now, maybe strengthening a little bit. All right, these models, I like to pay attention to these models for the track more so than the strength because I'll be able to get my strength from several other sources, including my own brain. All right, but there are a lot of models that you can put into this as well. But the GEFS, all right, they kind of take it north. They kind of take it short of Bermuda, having make it a right turn, kind of just dying out here over the open waters of the western tropical Atlantic. Meanwhile, the GEPS tracks are kind of a different story. All right. Now, Bermuda is going to be hard to find in all this mess, but I believe it's located somewhere in here. A lot of these models, though, several of them bring it dangerously, not dangerously, but several of them do bring it pretty close to the United States. All right, for example, these set of models here, but they also got these set of models that bring it well out to sea. Some as a strong tropical cyclone, maybe a strong post-tropical cyclone, meaning winds of 65 or so miles an hour, but it doesn't have enough organization to be classified as tropical. But it could still be a regular low pressure with 60-mile-an-hour winds. That's happened before as well, which is still just as powerful as a regular tropical storm, just not as organized. All right, but a lot of models on the GEPS side do take it closer to Bermuda. So let's take a look at the model intensity guidance. Like these models say here, and I also do agree with, like the NHC was saying, this will probably strengthen over the next 1 to 2 days. It could reach its peak strength of about a mid-grade tropical storm, and then drop down. All right, so eventually dropping down into a tropical depression, post-tropical cyclone, whatever it will be called at that point. But some models do think that it will drop to a tropical depression, then get reclassified as a regular low-pressure system, and then strengthen up again, all right, as a non-tropical low-pressure system with tropical storm force winds. That's what all these models are saying. But a lot of the models, which I do agree with, obviously the storm will eventually fall apart and weaken. Now, looking at the sea surface temperatures, or sea surface temperature anomalies, I should say, like how far are they from average? Along the storm's path here, we do have some warmer than average waters, and really, especially when and if this does get closer to Bermuda, we got some even deeper red colors shading here, which does mean that does mean the waters are even warmer. Which actually the waters are warmer by Bermuda, but what it really signifies is that it's going to be way above average. All right, that doesn't mean necessarily that it's more above average. Okay, it means that it's more above average than by the Leeward Islands. It doesn't mean the waters are necessarily warmer, but in this case they are. So I'll show that to you guys here. All right, so let's take a look at the sea surface temperatures. 30 degrees Celsius. All right, surrounding Bermuda, and then by the Leeward Islands, by the Caribbean islands here on the Atlantic side of the Caribbean islands, 29 degrees Celsius or so. So it's still very, very warm and can still, contribute to a. It's a positive for this. It's contributing to the storm's development. Now, this is the MSLP. I like to show this because of the rainfall. Now, keep in mind that the storm is going to look weak on here. Okay, but when I show you the cyclonic vorticity signature, it'll help you to analyze the storm a little more. I'm just showing you this for the sake of the rain and the precipitation rates. All right, so let's get into that now. So here's Josephine. Don't necessarily pay attention to the strength. Pay attention to the track on the specific map, and pay attention to the rainfall and how far it goes from the center. So here's Josephine on the GFS model. Like I said, we could get some rain showers, maybe a brief thunderstorm. All right, here's the low center, focusing on the track and the precipitation here, not the strength. And you can see we could have a band that breaks apart and maybe drops south pretty close to Puerto Rico. That could be part of the storm. That's certainly possible. All right, but then the storm moves up north. Okay, here's like your not too much of a low center by 5. This is Tuesday afternoon, probably post-tropical at this point. But still attacking Bermuda with some decent, velocity here at a pretty good speed. It's attacking at a good clip. And we do have a little bit of heavier rain that could be moving into Bermuda, according to the GFS model latest right here, by 8 p.m. on Tuesday. All right, so let's take a look at our precipitation, primarily for Bermuda. Now, whether there's around 2 inches of rain for eastern Puerto Rico that could be tied to this storm, that's, like I said, it's just next to 150 hours, so part of that could be tied to the storm. When you look at Bermuda, most likely about 1.5 to 2 inches of rainfall as of now, according to the GFS model, but we'll see how that evolves over time. Winds here, I would take a little bit of a grain of salt as well. I just kind of want to show you to give you a better idea of the track. As you can see, briefly, we did see a little strengthening here down to 999 millibars of pressure. Obviously, the lower that number is, the more the storm can deepen in strength. As you can see, moving north, then eventually a weaker low at this point, does move through Bermuda late Tuesday in through Wednesday. All right, very late night on Wednesday. Now, what I do want to show you guys now is the cyclone vorticity signature, and this is where I want you to focus in on the strength. You can focus on the track as well if you want. All right, so there's that disturbance coming out the Carolinas. This is no immediate threat to land. I mean, it is right now, but in the future, this will continue to move off the coast and not pose any more threat to land as it does so. But here is Josephine here, probably our number one threat that we're talking about. As you can see, we still have some, reds, even a little bit of pink. So I classified as around 27, all right, which is still a medium high on the scale here. But you'll see the gem model as well. But still, we could even see maybe a little back edge of this, maybe some wraparound on the west side, which is definitely looks like a post-tropical cyclone. Usually we see this kind of thing happen on the east side, not the west side. So the fact that it looks a little elongated and backwards, still a decent storm, but gaining a little bit of strength actually. We see red and a little area magenta still. So probably ranking still around 27 or so. Then it moves right through Bermuda and then in on out to sea, probably colliding with the front. But depending on how that high is, because this is why I like this map, it's a 3-in-1 essentially. You've got your 500 millibar heights, which is like your high pressure, kind of telling you what the storm track. Obviously, this thing is tracking around the high pressure. It's also telling you the cyclone vorticity, which is obviously the green, yellow, red, and magenta colors and pink colors. Then you also have your winds at 200 millibars. So it's kind of almost like telling you the wind shear at the upper levels. So you can kind of see that the winds are kind of coming from the more of a south direction. We don't know how strong they are. We're just looking at the direction here. All right. So before we take a look at the gem model real quick, I want to look at the ship's diagnostics message. I like to look at this a lot. All right, so take a look at the wind shear, dropping very, very low over the next 12, 24 hours. But after that, once it starts going up, it's going to go up a lot. All right, we're talking about, 22 knots, 21, depth back up to 31 knots. Then once it goes through a brief period of intense wind shear, then the wind shear drops off again as we head over the next few days, as it's pretty much starting to hit Bermuda at this point. So if the wind shear dramatically drops before this hits Bermuda, we could see some brief re-strengthening, whether this is a post-tropical cyclone that is re-strengthening, maybe not gaining tropical characteristics back, but still maybe gaining some stronger winds because of the lower wind shear, or it could just help to maintain its strength. It may not strengthen at all, maybe weaken. But looking at the ocean water, like I said, it's just going to go up. 28, 20.5, it hits 29 about 60 hours from now, then getting very close to 30 degrees Celsius, which is in the upper 80s in a few days from now. And looking at the storm speed, okay, I'm not going to go through all these. I like to look at a select few that really matter for the storm. So look at the storm speed. Looks like it'll be maintaining the same amount of speed, but as it nears Bermuda, watch out. Maybe we'll see a prolonged period of rain because the storm could be slowing down a little bit from, say, 15, 16 miles an hour or so down to 10 miles an hour. And while that means the storm is still moving, at least it's not completely stationary. While that means the storm is still moving, the slower the storm moves, the longer we have to deal with the rainfall. But it also means it takes longer to get here. So it's kind of like a controversial topic here. So looking at the heat content, you can see that getting well into the 50s, even 60s. So that's one thing the storm will have because it's tracking near Bermuda. Some pretty good heat content over the next few days. I think that's one thing that will aid in development, but also we could see a little bit of dry air kicking into this thing, which is another thing as well. Don't worry, as you'll see I'm doing my 19th hurricane season discussion as my other upload for today. So if you guys want to check that out, please consider going to my channel and doing so after this video, as well as subscribing as well. But if you check out my hurricane season, my 19th discussion, you also saw it in the 18th one, but 19th one I give a better update of things or how things are doing in the Atlantic, and you'll see that the tropics could be turning around, and they could be turning around real fast. I mean, we were saying the tropics were so quiet, and all of a sudden here comes 95L. Here comes Josephine. As soon as Josephine forms, here comes a disturbance off the, near North Carolina. So storms can just appear like that, honestly. All right, so the GEM model, like I said, it's the precipitation loop. You're not going to see the storm really. All right, it's going to look weak at first, yes, but you'll be able to see the cyclone vorticity signature. They actually think it looks worse than the GFS. So there's a storm, whatever's left of it moves north of the islands here. It's right here, whatever's left of it, about 100 hours out or so. Looking at the surface winds, might not look like much, and it may not be. All right, but you can see that we do have a little center trying to develop, but it looks very broken up. But look at the cyclonic vorticity signature. As you can see, like 590, I would say 592, not 590. This is kind of like where your real high pressure is, and it's kind of like misplaced. You would think it'd be farther north. All right, but as the storm starts tracking in this direction here, there's really no high pressure. There is a little bit here, but it's very unrecognizable. It's just a drift out area of 590. So not a strong enough high pressure to really steer this thing for now. But then the high pressure kicks into effect. All right, as you can see, there's your high pressure right here. It's going to kind of drag the storm up in this direction, and it's going to be a weak one. So it's going to allow the storm to wrap around, because if it's a stronger one, it will push it west out towards Florida and into the Gulf of Mexico. So there's your storm, and the GEM model has it strengthening and closer to Bermuda and then kind of meandering around and tapering off. Why is that? Well, look at this huge area of 592 that develops here. This is your high pressure. So if the storm is sitting right under the high pressure, that's some very, very stable air. That's going to cause the thing to weaken dramatically, as well as move around a lot slower. So if this were to start meandering closer to Bermuda, that would still be a disaster, because we would just see, rain for a while. But also consider the fact that even though it's moving slower, it's sitting under the presence of a high pressure. It's sitting right under this high pressure system here. So it's sitting under some very stable air. There's your little storm right there. So usually high and low don't get these close to each other, but if the high pressure does form right over that low center, that will help to bring some very stable air and dry air over it. Maybe not as much shear, but definitely some dry air that'll kind of taper away, kick out the moisture, maybe weaken the storm. So we'll see. This could be a threat to the extreme northern Caribbean islands and Leeward Islands, but this could be a bigger threat to Bermuda. We'll be watching you guys closely. So stay tuned here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am the Weather Dude, signing off till next time. Hopefully Josephine won't, strengthen to the fact that I may not have to do many more updates on it. But we'll see. This is definitely a storm to keep watch over. So thank you guys so much for watching. I am the Weather Dude, signing off till next time. Catch you guys next video.